फिर कभी वैसा ना कर सके। ऑर्डर ऑर्डर।
Released in 2007, Khuda Ke Liye follows the story of two singer brothers living in Lahore, Pakistan. One brother Mansoor goes to study in US but is arrested on basis of misunderstanding by FBI and is continuously tortured until he experiences serious brain damage. His brother, on the other hand, Sarmad, is inspired by fundamentalist philosophy in the name of Islam by a scholar, Maulana Tahiri, and goes on jihad to fight off the evil forces but eventually learns that how some people interpret religion to be utilized for extremism. He leaves behind fundamentalist philosophy and restores himself to his former state and philosophy. But I want to particularly emphasize on Sarmad and Maulana Tahiri. What are the same things that made Sarmad an artist at the start and the end of the story, while Maulana Tahiri a fundamentalist? But before we dig into that, let's look at first at what fundamentalism is and how same things turn an individual into an artist or a fundamentalist. In Battle for God, Karen Armstrong explains that term fundamentalism refers to a reaction to modernization by people as they feel alienated from their past values and ways of living and the principles that guided them. They express their reactions through different plans of actions and mediums, the degree and form of which varies from one place to another and time. In the start of 6th volume fundamentalist project, Martin E. Mart and R. Scott Appleby argue that fundamentalisms all follow a certain pattern. They argue that all kinds of fundamentalisms are embedded form of spirituality which emerge as a response to a perceived crisis, in this case modernity. Fundamentalists engage in a conflict with enemies whose secularist policies and belief systems seem a threat to their religion. They see this conflict not as a political struggle but a cosmic war of good and evil. They use pragmatic rationality of modernity and refine their fundamentals to as create an ideology that provides faithful with a plan of action. Eventually they fight back, attempting to re-sacralize seemingly skeptical world. In The War of Art, Steven Pressfield argues it's the confrontation of same issue: who am I, why I am here, what's the meaning of life, that creates an artist or a fundamentalist. It is the way the individual sets out to create an answer to these questions that makes him an artist or fundamentalist. Artists and fundamentalists arise from societies at different stages of development, or in case of same society, from different parts of society at different stages of development, as is the case for Sarmad and Maulana Tahiri. Artist culture has wealth, stability, enough access of resources to allow him the luxury of self-examination and self-actualization. Hence, an artist is grounded in freedom. The artist believes, however imperfectly, mankind is moving toward a better world, while fundamentalist holds no such notion. For him, the humanity has fallen from a higher state. Fundamentalism is philosophy of powerless, the conquered, displaced, and dispossessed. The breeding ground for fundamentalism is wreckage of political and military defeat, as it seems for Maulana Tahiri. While the artist confronts and finds meaning in despair of freedom, which is the state of modern life, the fundamentalist, alienated from familiar and comforting structures of tribalism, cannot find his way to future. So fundamentalist retreats into past. He returns in imagination to the glory days of his race or philosophy or religion and seeks to rebuild them and himself in their purer and righteous light. He gets back to basics, the fundamentals. Just like an artist plunges into process of creation, fundamentalist uses his creativity in destruction of his enemies through schools, organization, and networks. An artist is a humanist and believes that mankind has been called upon to co-create the world with God and values human life so highly. Fundamentalists cannot conceive this. In his society or his part of society, dissent isn't just crime but apostasy, it's heresy. So it is the same existentialist questions and freedom of modernization that makes an individual an artist or a fundamentalist. Let's focus on Maulana Tahiri now. Although it's not clear in the film, but I'm assuming as it seems that Tahiri came from part of society which was deeply conservative, oppressive. So growing up he felt powerless and maybe he also fought in US Cold War against Soviet Union in Afghanistan and was fighting in Talibanic fight after 9/11. So he also had experienced wreckage of political and military defeat which served as breeding ground for him when confronted by existentialism. He created meaning for his life by choosing fundamentalism as cosmic war between good and bad. Maulana Tahiri retreated into past out of despair of freedom of modernity, believing Muslims have fallen from a higher state. And he emphasized it when he talked about jihad, saying that Islam espouses the concept of jihad as a war to overcome the failings within the fallible human self rather than as a synonym for terror. And perhaps since culture of his part of society did not allow self-examination, Maulana Tahiri deemed art and music to be destructive than creative. And like any fundamentalist, Maulana Tahiri used his creativity not for the benefit of mankind, but for the destruction of his perceived enemy through his school of thought and terrorist network he controlled.
दुश्मन का दोस्त भी उतना ही बड़ा दुश्मन होता है, चाहे वो मुसलमान ही क्यों ना हो, और ऐसे मुसलमानों को भी कत्ल करने का उतना ही सवाब है जितना किसी काफिर को.
Let's talk about Sarmad now. Sarmad was grown up under progressive parents and in part of society which was wealthy and had access of resources which allowed him self-examination, so he was grounded in freedom. So when confronted by life's questions of existentialism, Sarmad created his meaning for life by indulging in process of creation of music, which became soul of his life. Grounded in freedom, he also learned that how imperfectly but mankind is moving forward toward a better world, except for the period when he was brainwashed by Maulana Tahiri. Sarmad was also a humanist when he was an artist, except for the period when he was brainwashed by Tahiri. He expresses this in later part of film when he admits that before being brainwashed by Tahiri, although he didn't pray regularly, he didn't hurt other people, meaning he valued human life.
इस अदालती कार्रवाई ने मुझे याद दिलाया है कि मैं पहले भी बुरा मुसलमान नहीं था. झूठ नहीं बोलता था, चोर नहीं था, औरत, शराब, जुआ सबसे दूर था. किसी को धोखा नहीं देता था, किसी का हक नहीं मारता था. माँ बाप बहुत खुश थे मुझसे. 13 साल की उम्र में कुरान शरीफ खत्म किया था. बस एक कमी थी मुझ में, वो ये कि मैं नमाज नहीं पढ़ता था. मैं मानता हूं कि ये बहुत बड़ी कमी थी और मैं शुक्रगुजार हूं मौलाना ताहिरी का जिन्होंने मुझे नमाज दी, जो अब अल्हम्दुलिल्लाह सारी जिंदगी साथ रहेगी. लेकिन इसके साथ साथ इस्लाम के नाम पर एक नहीं, दो नहीं, मुझसे इतने सारे ऐसे काम करवा लिए गए जो या तो गलत थे या जरूरी नहीं थे. जो जुल्म मैंने मरियम के साथ कर दिया है.
So the same existentialist questions and freedom of modernization that made Sarmad an artist made Maulana Tahiri a fundamentalist. Although it seems fundamentalists should be labeled as simply bad or ignorant people, but I think that cannot be true. They are complex characters with their reason for what they do. Sometimes, to prevent escalation, we must try to empathize with pain and perceptions of other side. Those of us who relish the freedoms and achievements of modernity find it hard to comprehend the distress this caused to religious fundamentalists. But a lot of people experience modernization not as a liberation, but as aggressive attack.